National Fishermen and Pacific Marine Expo are proud supporters of the Galley Stories podcast, as we make similar efforts to highlight the people and topics that define commercial fishing. You can see what that looks like in print and online all year long, as well as every November in Seattle when this community comes together at PME. Check out nationalfisherman.com and pacificmarineexpo.com to learn more.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Alaska Brewing Company out of Juneau, Alaska. Go check out their new Wild Ness beer. Launched on March 1st, any place that you got a good retailer near you or your favorite watering hole. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond, hosted by Mark Kaler. My name is Penka Jane, podcast deckhand and longtime listener. We'd thank you to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Here's today's catch.
Hello guys, and welcome to another installment of Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler. Today we have an old-time friend of mine, not an old guy, but an old-time friend, Captain Jeff Olsen of the Heidi Linnea. How are you doing, Jeff?
Great. Good morning, Mark.
Good
Great
morning.
to be here, buddy.
Well, good evening for me.
Yeah, good evening. There you go. Exactly. Good morning for me.
Yep. So, Jeff, we'll dive into it and just where were you born and what was your first commercial fishing experience like?
Boy, born in Seattle, Washington, and born and raised there. My father came over from Denmark, and he started in a place called Chicknick, Alaska. That is where I started, and my dad took me at the age of 5. And I have been going to Chicknick ever since, and it's just been absolutely amazing. So, childhood experiences, summertime on the boat, since, 5 until I'm 55 today. So there you have it.
So, what was your first paid experience like? It was obviously on your dad's boat.
First paid experience was on my dad's boat. You know, started out when I was 5. I was the bow line guy. I undid the bow line. I did the pursing. At the end of the summer, he paid me a whopping $200 on the plane, and it was in cash with $1 bills, and I'll never forget that experience. I thought I was the richest kid in the world. And the flight attendants all came up to me, and it was just a game changer.
How so?
Just the experience with my dad, experience of the boat. It was like what everybody talked about after I got a little bit older was a summer camp. All my friends went to summer camp after school, or when school was over with, they went to summer camp. Well, I went to Alaska. So their summer experiences were quite different than mine, but I compared it to like a summer camp for kids because I became friends with everyone in Chicknick, and it was awesome. Best experience of my life.
What about the progression? Obviously, 5. You're the bow line kid, right? You're tossing it, you're catching it, you're tying it up.
Yes, bow line, pursing, and then started on the net from cork line. Cork line is what holds the net up. Then I was the web guy, which is in the middle of the net, and then the lead man. And I'm like, okay, I got to get off of this. I got to get done.
What do those 3 positions entail?
Pulling the net in, pulling the cork line in, stacking it on the back deck, web, pulling the web in, keeping the web away from the corks and keeping away from the leads. Lead line is basically the lead line that holds the bottom of the net down. Purse line comes down with that. Got to keep those 2 lines together. So my big goal was to get off deck and to jump in the skiff because I was like, enough's enough.
So how old were you when that happened?
I was, 5. By the time I turned 9 years old, I was a skiff man, full-time skiff man. And it was awesome. There weren't too many young skiffmen, but
There's not too many young skiffmen.
No, I loved it. I left it because I was my own boss. I got away from my dad, which I love to death, but he likes to yell. And I'd be my own boss. I could see the fish coming. I could do what I needed to do. Plunge. A plunger is an aluminum stick with a cup on the end of it that splashes into the water that scares the fish back in the net. It was a 70-horse Evinrude with a steel stick on it. There was no steering wheel. This is old school, and it was awesome. And I just took it from there, and I was a skiff man, until I was up about 16, 17 years old.
What happened? What changed then?
What changed then? Then I came back on deck. So then my dad taught me a little bit more about sitting up on the flybridge with them, more about the boat, more about the engine, more about the autopilot. more about hydraulics, just got me wrapped around more of how to run my own boat. And then at the age of 18, 19, I started running my own boat. We bought another permit, and I ran that one for 3, 4, 5 years.
Which boat was that?
That was called the Denica. It was named after the Danish vodka. The Absolute is named after I named the Absolute. The Absolute was first, I should say. The Absolute was first. And as an older kid, I was 21, I loved Absolute, so I named it Absolute. And that's what my brother has today. My boat, the other one that we bought, I called it the Denica, because my dad's Danish, and it was a Danish vodka. So we had
So we have an alcohol theme going on.
Except the Heidi Linnea. The Heidi Linnea is the only one that never
That's
fit in the
because
picture.
your dad named it.
Yeah, exactly. Very smart. After my sister and my grandma. So it's like, yeah, okay. So yeah, it was just like, they were fun names. So that's
I'm thinking of a funny story, and I don't know. Yeah, okay. So I met you and your brother in Chignik.
Yes.
2007.
Yes.
Was the year, and I remember. Your brother asked me to get something out of his locker.
Yeah.
And so I went to his locker, and when I opened it, I'm not kidding you, there was probably 100 bottles of Absolute and various other sodas in the locker. And so
yep.
different times.
Different times, and you had to survive because Chignik was a dry town.
Yeah.
So for us, it was just like, Dad always, we were brought up right. We're not brought up like a bunch of alcoholics, but, at the end of the day, you'd have that one cocktail, and that's what we were always. What's the word for it? We were just, you work hard, and at the end of your day, if you want a little toddy, have a toddy to put you to sleep, and then you get right back up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you just go from there. But we were like big entertainers, when it closes.
It can be closed for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and then it's just like you have friends that come over, and what do? You entertain yourself. You entertain them, and it's just like it's always nice to have something to entertain them with.
Always been part of our culture.
Yes, exactly. We all, on all our boats, we all have ice machines, and the reason for the ice machines is not for the sodas. It's just to make that little.
Of course, this was years ago.
Years ago.
We don't currently do.
No, absolutely not.
Way to work in absolute.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, absolute. Yeah, so true.
Okay, so back to the boat that you first got. That was the
Denica. It was a 42-footer that we extended to a 47-footer. It was a learning experience. The hydraulics were chain driven. So you always had to go down and tighten the chain. I was overworking the hydraulics because by that time I hated fishing the lagoon because the lagoon was shallow water, hang up, snags. So I moved myself to the Capes. And I was probably the only one, I was the only 42-footer at that time that was out on the Capes compared to the other bigger boats. Like my brother's boat, the Absolute, we extended that one before I extended the Denica. So I didn't have much buoyancy, but I was out there and I would fish alongside all the Highlanders, Dean Anderson, the whole gang, and it was but I never stopped, kept going.
So that was your first on your own, platform.
Own platform.
What was that experience like? Getting the keys? Did you what were you?
It was a challenge. Let's just say that it was. You go from working with your dad, doing your own operation. It's crazy because you're responsible for everything. There's nothing that you're not responsible for. So you got crew members, all the maintenance on the boat is all on you. So he brought me up the right way, meaning I took care of everything. I still don't have a mechanic today. My dad always quoted, "Hey, when you get on your own, Jeff, you've got to hire a mechanic." Well, why hire a mechanic when you know how to do it yourself? So I never had to worry about what side am I running the fuel on. Port, starboard side, I always know what side I'm running off of because I swap them back and forth. The rake cores, I never have to worry about breakdowns because I fix everything. And I've always been like that.
I try not to talk much in these, but I got it.
Yeah.
I'm talking more than I should. But Canute, your dad.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I was on the Heidi Linnea. It was the prettiest boat in Chicknick.
Oh.
Alfredo had a nice boat.
Yeah.
Dean, of course, had a nice boat. But your dad's boat, everything had a place, and nothing was out of place.
No. The Heidi Linnea it's still today. I mean, everyone in Chicknick. We go to Kodiak, we pull that boat out of the water. You know, granted, the boat now is mine, but I still refer to it as my dad's boat. And everyone still today says it's the prettiest boat out there.
Well,
gorgeous.
The point I was making is that it still is. It's still organized. It's still beautiful.
Yes.
But so's your brothers.
Yeah.
So you guys were raised that way.
We were raised just to keep stuff first class. I mean, when we did the top house on the Heidi and the top house on the Absolute, it was just like we did it. The lines, everything. You know, my dad was very particular about everything, and even the other boats that are in Kodiak that we're friends with, they're like, God, the boat is still immaculate.
Looks the same.
It looks the same. It hasn't changed. It's clean. It's just I'm a clean freak, so that's the way it's gonna stay. So first thing that Blake said when I came up to the tender, and he's like, "Holy smokes, that's a really nice boat." I go, "Thank you." And then all the tender kids that came in and started delivering fish to us are like, "This is a really nice boat. You want us to tie up to it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's go. Let's make this thing happen." And it's been amazing. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
So after that, how did you get the Heidi Linnea? Let's go to that.
Woo! How did I get the Heidi Linnea?
Are you the oldest?
I'm the middle one. I'm the middle one. My sister's the oldest. I am the middle. My brother's the youngest. How I got the Heidi is the Denica. I was fishing Hook Bay. Super, super shitty weather. We got done. Garrett was fishing. My dad was fishing. I was fishing. And it closed the next day. So basically, there was no room for me to fish. So I decided the weather was going to come down. So I'm going to take off. So I went from Hook Bay to Anchorage Bay. And I got stuck in a storm. Like a really bad storm. Like, I thought this was it. And it was funny. My crew members were watching, what is the movie that all those fishermen go out? I should know this one.
The Perfect Storm?
Yes! God almighty. They were watching that downstairs.
Linda Greenlaw?
Yes! They were watching that show downstairs.
On their VHS?
On their little, portable thing. And it wasn't that bad, but it just came out of nowhere. From both directions. It got so bad that I had to run my net off. I lost my skiff.
What do you mean by that, run the net?
Oh, meaning that my skiff started taking on water. Skiff filled up with water. Cut my skiff loose. Was talking to my dad on the radio going, "This is what's happening." He's like, "Oh my God." And it was too rough for my dad to come get me. He says, "Run the net off. Just run the net off and we'll find the net later. We'll find it." So basically, threw a bucket out, ran the net off the back deck of the boat. All of a sudden, a really good buddy of mine that was a tender in Chicknick Bay, he hears me on the radio. He's like, "Jeff, are you okay?" And I says, "Well, we're going in survival suits. I don't know if I'm going to make this." And lo and behold, he's like, "Jeff, I'm coming out." So this big 120-foot crab boat.
Who is this? We got to know.
His name was Steve Moore, and he's passed away. But he was crazy. He was, make a long story short, he used to fish with us. Then he took his own boat. Then he ran tenders. And the only way I really can remember him was he had a cavity, really bad cavity. It was hurting him like a bat out of hell. And he put splash zone. He made some splash zone, and a splash zone is this 2-part epoxy, and it's this marine stuff. If you get a hole in your boat, it fixes anything. It's just amazing stuff, but it's not meant to fix teeth. But he put that stuff, and I always knew him and referred to him as "Steve, you're just crazy, splash zone man." And he put it right on that tooth. Well, he came out. He's like, "Jeff, can you see my lights?" I'm like, "Yes." Finally, he came out, and I literally rode his stern all the way into Chicknick Bay. Lost the net, lost my skiff, got tied up to the dock, and the next morning, flat calm, Dad and my brother came in. The next day, we had Jeff Moore, that also was in Chicknick. We rented his plane to come out and fly to try to find my net. Make a long story short, the net, we found it off of Seal Cape. So, Dad came back, says, Jeff, your net's out at CO Cape. Went all the way out to CO Cape, flat calm, put my net aboard. I thought, okay, this is great. I got my net. Don't worry about my skiff, whatever. We're coming around Castle Cape, and I'm talking on the track phone. A track phone is like a telephone that Harold has. It's just a super cool thing. Talking to my dad on the track phone, all of a sudden my track phone goes dead, and I'm like, what's going on? What? You know, this is my generator runs all my 12-volt system. So I'm like, okay. So I go back to find out what's going on with my generator, and I go to touch the hatch, and the hatch was like basically red hot. And I was like, whoa, what's this so hot? And I cracked the hatch, and ball of flame on the Denica. And the boat caught on fire. Burnt to the waterline within 4 hours. On the way back with my net and my crew, when we're coming around Castle Cape, they're watching that same damn movie again. They're watching in their bunks because they didn't finish it. And I thought to myself, I swear to God, I don't ever want to hear this movie, see this movie, ever again. This movie
will not play
the death of me.
It became a banana on a boat.
It was beyond the banana. I was just like, what? So, once again, Dad, hey, on the VHF, I'm on fire, and he's heading out to Hook Bay, and he can see me. He comes my way. We run the net off one more time, throw another bucket because we got to save whatever we can save. But by the time he got to me, my house was encaved into the boat.
Were you guys still on it?
It was funny because I had to bring something with me, so I had this little glass ply speedboat that Jim Long had. I brought that with me, so I had something because I didn't have a skiff, so I had to have something. So they let me borrow that. But it was just chaotic, and you can still see where my engine on the beach, because we ran it up to the beach. And it was just the saddest thing. And I thought to myself, now what? Now what am I going to do? Now the boat's gone. Insurance company's fantastic, but it was just like, whoa. So a girl that I was dating, Erica Huguet, she was friends with a guy named Corky Singleton. And he was working for a seafood company. And he says, hey, Jeff, come and work for us at Global Seafoods. It was like, okay, I'll try something new. So I stepped out of fishing for 3 years, and then started Absolute Seafoods, and that was in 2000, oh God, 2013, 2014. Went to Sitka, quit fishing. Dad kept fishing, but that's when the co-op took place, so there wasn't, what's the word for it? It wasn't like everybody's. There was only a limited amount of boats that fish, and my dad wasn't part of the co-op. We didn't like the co-op. And I was in Sitka Seafood Company, having a great time, and my mom calls, and she says, hey, Dad is broke down, Sandpoint, and my mom, is the first time I actually heard my mom cry, and she's like, and I was like, I'm starting to tear up now, and I'm like, Mom, I dropped everything, jumped on a plane, flew up, helped my dad get the Heidi going. We made it. We were going to Togiak for a herring thing. I'm like, okay, whatever. And that's basically when I got back in the groove of things. I was like, okay. And my mom's like, well, you need to hang out, you need to hang out with Dad. I'm like, well, Mom, I got my own company going on here. She's like, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to figure this out? And I'm like, well, I didn't think I was going to get back into fishing, but then I fell back with my dad. And then I fished with my dad until he quit. And it was amazing, because before we were together, he would say black, I'd say white, and we would just bonk heads like crazy. And that's why I jumped in the skiff, because I had to get off the boat in order to get along with him. Mm-hmm. So I was the skiff man, he was the captain. So it was a weird transition, but that's how I got back into Heidi.
So the return was a different experience?
Return
no more
was
black and white?
Return was great, because it was just like, I knew what I was doing, because I learned everything from him. So when I came back and I'm on his boat, he really didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to go down to the engine room. He was just like a breath of fresh air. And that's why we put the top house on. We extended it. It was just like we did a bunch more stuff to the boat to make it more of a family boat because he knew I had kids. So he would sit upstairs and I would just basically control the whole deck. So it was weird. It was a weird transition because I didn't think I was going to get back after the boat caught on fire. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And yeah, I started my own thing and then I came back and it's awesome. And now here I am, you know?
So, generally I would ask, what's your worst experience? Was that it? Did we,
Woo,
did we already talk about it?
Oh my God, there are so many experiences that come. That was, without a doubt, that was the worst experience. But probably worse than that was with the Heidi, leaving here,
Leaving Bristol Bay.
leaving Bristol Bay, Knack.
So this had to be in the last few years. Here.
Oh my God, this was like when I first year, second year, third year tendering for Trident. I left here. Kirby, good old Kirby. Love Kirby on the Cape Caution. Love him to death.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, he's just bigger boat. And I'm like, Kirby, how's it out there? And of course, we didn't have Windy back then. We just had our little, hey, here's your little.
Okay, Kirby's not the guy out asking about weather.
No.
Just pointing that out because
I'm well aware of that
for
today.
Kirby, everything's like, oh, it's not
it's
bad.
flat, calm. So I went out, and oh my God, Mark, it was
because he's nautical.
Nautical.
He is nautical.
He could care less if it's 50-foot seas. Jeff, it's flat, calm, baby's bottom out here. And that's where I got the baby bottom thing from because it was from him. And I left here because Chicknick opened up and you guys let me go. And what is not the river, not the next one down. It's the furthest one. Is it the furthest one down by
so you got
right before Port Molar?
Igigik, Ugashik,
Ugashik. Oh my God, Ugashik. So
well, Cinder's in there too, but it's real small.
I think Ugashik is the place that I had to pull into. And oh my God, I got out there and it just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, hellstorm. And there's only one other guy and myself. And before that, I took fuel from the fuel barge. So maybe this was my first year. I think it was my first year tendering because I was pretty low. I went out to the fuel barge to take fuel and I needed 500 gallons per side. And I put the thing in, make a long story short, I wasn't aware that they could turn that thing down or slow it or whatever. So he gave me 500 gallons within maybe 15 minutes. And I was in awe. Like, hey, how did this happen so fast? Thinking to myself, okay, cool, this is cool. Go to the other side, top off. Well, what that does, that just stirs up all the shit that's inside your tank. So all that blasted in there, basically just scrubbed my tank. So all that algae, when I'm out there in the shit, Mark, I went through probably 13, 14 Raycors because I have dual Raycors. So I'm cleaning one while I open up the other one. While I'm done with this one clogged up. I have a greenhorn guy upstairs.
I was going to say, who's driving the boat?
Oh my God, my guy upstairs is freaking. He is like, God, I am down the engine room, smelling fuel. I'm like, this is hell. We're going down. This is not where I want to be right now. He's upstairs, seasick, thrown outside the window. He's like, and then I come up and I'd go down, change the fuel filters, come back and forth. I was just going back and forth, go up top, and he's like, Jeff, I feel like I could have touched the last wave with my hand outside the window. I'm like, it was nautical. So I'm calling my buddy that's in the river that I'm out in front of, and that's the one down by before Port Molar. Ugashik. And Chris on the Brittany heard him on the radio. I'm like, Chris, Heidi Linnea. I didn't really know him at the time, but I love him today.
Awesome dude.
And his wife had the Ford. What boat did he run?
No, she ran the last Frontier, Cam.
Cam. Oh my God, she saved me because it was just like she
what
was
a great skipper.
I was just like, she was amazing, and she's like, Jeff, do you know this? I said, I don't know anything about this river, but on my chart it shows here, and I'm going in to where I think the channel is. It looks like on my chart. The chart shows it's there. Well, that's no channel. So I'm going in, and I have curlers on either side of me, and all of a sudden I touch bottom. And literally, a curler comes, and I turn the boat hard port to get out because I touched bottom, thinking, okay, something's wrong here. A wave hit me from the side, knocked everything out of whack, turned around, and I'm heading back out because I'm just like, I gotta get out. And I'm on bottom. And it was nautical. And I thought to myself, survival suits, Here we go again. I'm losing the Heidi. This is just ludicrous. And Cam is like, hey, where are you, Jeff? And I'm like, I'm trying to tell her where I'm at, and she's like, well, you're not that close, but she came out, and I saw her lights, and that's the only thing that fucking saved me, because I was like, I am in hell right now. Waves were coming out of anywhere. Chris is in there, is on the radio. People, and my buddy Dale.
Carlson.
Yeah, Carlson. Of course. I'm like, hello. And he's like, oh, yeah, just go this way, Jeff. Go this way. I'm like, it's not that easy, pal. You got to give me something to go off, because the channel that's on the chart is not the channel. And make a long story short, I saw their lights. They're like, Jeff, look for our lights. And Cam came out halfway, saved my ass. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this tender came in, and she's like, follow this guy in. And it was, I'll never be. I love Chris still today, and I love Cam, but Chris is just like, I always shoot the shit with him, just like God. And I pull in, and I was so exhausted. And I go in alongside him, and I'm like, where do I anchor up here? He's like, oh, just go up a little ways. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go up a little ways. And if you don't know it, I don't know that river worth of shit. I wake up dry as fucking, just dry, leaned over, like, what? How can this get any worse? And Chris made the comment like, well, you went a little bit too close to the port. I'm like, I do not care. I'm in here. It's flat, calm. And then the next day was just gorgeous, like a baby's bottom.
A boat can't sink if it's on the sand.
You're right. God. After that experience, I'm like, so then the next day, of course, I called Kirby. I'm like, Kirby, you and your baby bottom, buddy. I don't know what your baby bottom looked like, but it was really rough.
What's the baby bottom?
Baby bottom, he just said his baby bottom. Like, baby bottom, smooth as a baby's bottom. Like, putting like baby powder on a bottom. It's just like, and I'm like, okay. And and that's it. That was scarier than the boat catching on fire. It was just like, this was like, here I am, and
one crew member,
and it was just, yeah. And I just shut the boat off. We anchored up. We went dry. Fell asleep. Passed out. Got up. It was just flat, calm, as the baby's bottom is. And we took off, and I go, I'll never in my lifetime let that happen to me again. Ever. Flat out. Never said. I says, you know what? I will look at the weather. I don't care if they're catching thousands of reds in Chicknick. I'll never go out and travel on this side in a shitstorm. So now, Wendy's my best friend. And ever since then, it's been baby's bottom. It's been nice. I've just never been trapped in that kind of situation.
I think your caption for this one will be smooth as a baby's bottom.
Yeah, there you go. Get out the baby powder. It's just, as Kirby said, smooth as a baby. And my brother still makes fun of me.
That's an exciting story. I really appreciate that you give Chris and Cam
oh my God
credit on that.
Oh God, Trident. It was
Chris
just like,
still today, I mean, Cam always would too, but Chris will go anywhere to help anyone.
No, he's amazing. He's just down to earth every time I see him. Just happy-go-lucky. And I didn't know him from Adam, but it was just like, you're just part of that Trident family.
Kirby's defense, he would too.
Yeah, oh God, Kirby
would because any weather for him is smooth.
It doesn't even matter for Kirby.
He will go. He's so nautical.
Nautical. He loves it.
Yeah,
I think he loves it.
He's born that way.
He's crazy. Yeah. I freaking love him.
Me too. Me too. Okay, so what about your best experience at sea?
Best experiences fishing with my dad when I was a kid. Just flat out. You know, I have my own personal experiences with me running the boat, but with Dad, that was just good. And then my brother came fishing, my sister came fishing, so we fished family, and that was the highlight of my dad's life. He loved it.
It seems to me that there's always family on your boat.
Yeah, and that's I'm family oriented. It was just like my girls that are up here with me now, 14 and 12.
Are your deckhands?
Yeah, are my deckhands, you know, and they both came up last year for like a week, and, you know, I got a divorce, and my ex-wife was like, no, they can't go, and I met her in Sitka, so of all things, I'm like, really? You're Alaskan, and you're not going to let your girls go? Come on, they're with their dad. Oh, you know, she just hears the horror stories about Alaska, drinking, and
you just
smoking.
gave a great horror story.
And I'm like, yeah, come on. So, finally, we came to peace, came to Jesus, came to God, and she said, okay, fine. So now the two girls are up here, and they took the boat from Kodiak all the way to here with me. Dad flew up because he's like, and I thought he would never be on the boat again, but he wanted to come up because the grandkids to make an experience. I'm like, okay, and he's never been up here. He's never been to Knack Knack. So he made the trip with us, and it was gorgeous, flat calm. We stopped at Metrophania. We did a little fishing, and then Baby Bottom the rest of the way. It was amazing. And the kids, I love it because the way that I was brought up was I've had buddies of mine come up from high school to go fishing, and either you like it or you don't. There's no in between. And my daughters, they have not complained once to me. They love it. They're even talking about next year. Kaylin's like, Dad, if we go by the Wide Bay, which that's what we think we're going to do, Dad, I'll run the Heidi eventually. And I'll run the Heidi, you run the Wide Bay. And I'm like, that would be amazing.
You can see this.
I can see it.
So I can see that they're fishy like you, and here's why. You're in shorts and flip-flops on deck.
Yeah.
A T-shirt. It doesn't matter what the weather is.
No.
Your daughter was out there in a bathrobe today.
I blew my mind. Mark. I was like,
definitely the same blood.
Oh my God, I woke her up and I'm like, hey, honey, we had to go tie up. And she's like, Dad, it's 6. I'm like, I don't care. We have to be there at 6:30, so come on. Put a pair of sweats on, get a sweatshirt. Lo and behold, I turn around and she's in my bathrobe. She has her pajamas on, in her bathrobe, with her little Crocs, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. Who cares? And she's like...
Definitely your kid.
It definitely belongs to me, because it's like, normal girls would want to be dressed up somewhat because they're coming in. Yeah, right? And she is like my princess at home. She's like my makeup queen. She gets herself ready in the morning, and here she is, she throws in the bathrobe, and I looked at her, and I'm like, that's my kid.
How proud.
That's my kid, because my other daughter's sleeping because she did the night shift, so they just rotate. But it's like, we're very family-oriented. Garrett has his 2 boys up here, and we just love it. It's just, and I can see in the girls, maybe, they'll want to get into it, maybe not, because I don't have anybody to turn the Heidi down to, so it's just like the girls get into it, and...
Hey, women fish too.
Yeah, and they do fantastic. I mean... and they have a nice boat, and I'll make sure everything's taken care of for them.
They will have a beautiful
Yes,
boat.
and it'll just... So this is it. So yeah, I'm hoping that... But we'll see what happens. But they like it.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
They don't ask about the money. They don't ask about what. They like it.
You're going to pay them.
Oh, God, yes, I'm going to pay them. God, and they're...
14 and 12?
14 and 12, they're going to go to Sephora. They're going to go live the dream. It's just like that's all that... Brooklyn said that yesterday. Dad, when we get home, we're going to Sephora. Sephora is, oh my God, oh God, it is a Nordstrom's for little kids that love makeup. It's like a Toys R Us to me when I was a kid.
Okay.
I loved Toys R Us. It was like I'd come home from when I was 5, 6. Toys R Us was the shit. It was like,
I was just hoping to get into Target.
Yeah, right. Just something, right? So yeah, let's toy shopping. But makeup is what my daughter's into. And,
okay.
Oh my God, Sephora is just, I cannot stand the smell of it going in there. It smells when you get out of there, but it's every girl's fantasy.
Imagine what this is going to give them, though.
Yes.
This experience.
Yeah.
Because they are working. They're working. Your deckhands.
Yes. They're working. They're shoveling ice. They're like, okay. Funny thing, Kaylin said, Dad, are we ever going to put fish in the hole? I'm like, kid, we're going to get there.
Oh, let's not cover how bad fish is.
Yeah, right. And then she heard you on the radio last night because you were on the cell phone when I was talking to you. Like, say, hey, Jeff, you had 18,000 pounds last year this time. And here I am whopping 1,400. It's like, Dad, okay, this shoveling ice, whatever, man. When are we going to go in the big hole?
You just keep shoveling ice.
Yes, exactly. I'm just like, don't worry, honey. We're going to put the ice in the fish hole to help it chill it down. But yes, it's eventually going to happen here. Okay, good. Because she's so excited for that. She's like, that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, experiences. Yeah. God.
What is the sea given to you, Jeff?
The sea. What is it given?
Because that's where you make your money.
Yeah.
That's your life.
The sea is just, it has its ups and downs, like everything else in life. But the sea has given me everything that I have today. My foundation, my backbone. When I was a kid, my birthday is June 20th. I'd be seasick on my birthday every June 20th when I was a kid fishing with my dad. It'd be like, for some reason, the weather would always turn to hell, and I'd get seasick, and we would just fish through it. So it's given me a lot of things. It's got me over seasickness, because seasickness sucks, because it's not a damn thing you can take to get over it. End of story. Nothing. There's not a pill. There's not a cracker. I've done it all. Crackers, 7-Up, to saltines. Nothing helps that sickness. So yeah, the sea it's a beautiful place. I prefer it over the land. You know, if I had a choice of to tender week, I'd tender 12 months a year.
What is it taking away from you?
Oh, what is it taken away from me? A lot of friends. A lot of my friends have passed away through the ocean. And that's always a tough thing. A lot of friends that I grew up with at Shorewood Heights School, they all went crabbing directions, and I always did the salmon, and they went crabbing, and yeah, quite a few guys have lost their lives. Got crushed physically, mentally. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, that's what it on my end, and I've just never done the winter thing. It's never been my thing. It's never been the cod fishing. It's never been the pot hauling. It's always just been, I'm just going to stay with the salmon and come up with something else to do during the winter time, because I don't want to go on that route. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but the sea has taken a lot of friends.
Yeah,
a lot of friends.
What advice would you give for young folks? Obviously, you're bringing up your own.
Bringing up my
folks,
own.
But what advice would you give to someone else that doesn't have the background that you're allowing your kids?
You know, boy, it's a different. What would be the word? It's a great, fantastic experience to come up here to Alaska. Either you're gonna like it or you're gonna hate it. If you hate it, you can't get out of here fast enough. But if you love it, the experience of the ocean, the experience of tying up a boat, the experience, like my daughters, 12 and 14, they're going to know, they both know how to tie a bowline. And their friends are like, what's a bowline? Well, it's a knot. It's a knot that you can pull on, you can tug on it, and the damn thing will always come undone. And they got the four-wheeler stuck yesterday on the beach. And Brooklyn tied a bowline. She's like, Dad, we tied a bowline, we towed the four-wheeler out. I'm like, okay, you're 12 years old, kid. This is something that will carry with you for the rest, for the rest of your life.
She's going to show up her husband.
Yes, it's just like, and that's what, that's,
well, let me show you. Get out of my way.
Get out of the way. And it was just like, so the kids are going to have, it's like a kid's paradise if the kids like it. It's just fresh air. You can see bears, you can see eagles, you can see fish.
Belugas.
Yeah.
All the way through.
All these little white whales. You know, they saw walruses coming up here. You know, it's just like the experience for someone to come up. I have a friend of mine that her daughter asked me to go. She's going to go. She's tendering on one of your guys' new tenders. His name is Garrett. Cannot remember his last name, but I met him in Ketchikan. He's married. I can't remember her name either, but they have...
Alzheimer's, guys. He's getting old.
Yeah, there it is. Exactly. It's just driving me nuts. But what is the tender? There's a brand new tender that you guys have.
The phosphorescence.
No, not that one.
It depends on what you mean brand new, because that is brand new boat.
Okay, put it this way. Garrett fishes for you guys. I didn't even know where he fishes. Maybe southeast for you guys. And his wife's up here. And some other guy's running the boat.
When he's referring to you guys, he's talking about my day job.
Day job.
Not my hosting job.
God, what is Good Time? No. He's been in there a couple times. He's been dragging anchor, so they added some chain to him. I don't know.
A tender?
It's a tender. 65, probably 60 foot. We'll make it long. Yes.
Whatever.
She's never gone tendering, and she called me. She says, Jeff, hey, what do you think about tendering? I'm like, hey, it's an experience, kid. If you're going to do something, and she's like 21, 22, and she's loving it. She's loving it. She says, hey, Jeff, can I go tendering? I said, well, I have 2 girls, so it's not going to work because my girls are taken care of. But she's like, what about fishing? So she just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that's what happened to me. Yeah. I came up in '92, and I feel like even my home, I had to be on water or near water.
It's crazy. No, it's something that you can't even explain. Either you like it or you don't. And if you love it, boom, you're here. And that's what we're doing here. We love it.
Jeff, this has been a really great interview.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Do you have any more stories you'd like to share, or any final thoughts?
God, no. Final thoughts. You know, for people that are listening to this great, fantastic guy here, to come up to Alaska is just a flat out amazing experience. And if you can get yourself out and get yourself on a job on a good boat, and you like it, God, you never know what's going to happen. I started out at 5. My dad was a furniture maker. Came from Denmark to over here. His uncle was raising foxes on Natchmak Island. Dad got into the fishing world, and he just been doing it all his life, same as me. It's just like I would have never. My dad didn't take me at 5. God knows where I would have been.
You know, just
Just
not trying to extend this any,
yeah,
but
no.
There's a good chance I probably won't ever get to talk to your dad like this. But
I think we got to get him. We got to.
I think we have
in
to.
Seattle. I'll get him.
We have to. But how did he get started in it?
God, that is a story that I'm going to let him, because I'll get you with him.
Okay.
End of story.
In the story.
Because he's a great storyteller.
I,
He's amazing.
and he's got that. He's still got that accent.
He's got the accent, and he's absolutely.
There comes the absolute again.
Absolute, exactly, right? Absolutely. But it's just like he would be, because I can't tell his stories. I mean, he is a great storyteller. It's just like everyone in Chicknick loves him. And when my friends would come over in high school and grade school, and we'd all talk, and then he would tell his stories, it's just like they would just be in awe.
Well, he's a legend.
He's a legend, and all his friends are dying or gone or dead.
Well, he's getting old, like
Yes,
we are.
we're all getting old, but he's like 80, 87, and all his friends are like, but he's just outliving everybody. I don't know. I'm like, Dad, you got good genes, man.
Clean living.
Clean-
Well, that's
clean,
good
good
because
living.
you got the same gene.
Yes, thank God, because I'm like, well, Dad, you just got, he's done his thing. It's just like, who would ever thought?
When I saw him on the boat, when you guys came this year, I was super excited because
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him on that boat in a number of years,
No,
and he looks good.
he looks the same. Kirby cried. You should see the pictures I have of him. When we pulled up, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to surprise Kirby. Come on. He's like, okay.
I heard you call him and say, "Hey, we're going to stop by and see."
Yes, and we pulled up alongside, and Kirby came out in tears, giving him a big hug. Like, oh my God, Canute, I never thought I'd see you again. But this is just awesome.
Kirby's got such a big heart, man.
He does.
He looks different this year himself.
I love him.
He looks like he's getting ready to
He
go
looks
to church.
like he looks, it's like something happened to him. He came to faith or something like that, because last year, I mean, bathrobe, long hair, shaggy hair, it's like, whoa, dude, where are you?
He was.
Yeah.
Flip,
He
flop.
was like flip-flops,
With
bathrobe.
pajama bottoms. He looked similar to somebody I saw this morning.
Exactly, right? Without the beard and the hair. But I was like, oh, God.
Kirby has had long hair the entire time I've known him.
Oh, yeah.
So when he pulled up this year, clean cut
I know. Could
and
be.
shaved,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
He told me, he says,
Did you
"Canute."
find God?
Yeah, I don't know.
What happened here?
He told me, he goes, Jeff, the shampoo and conditioner is getting too expensive. I'm like, what? From you to tell me that? He's like, yep, I'll spend too much money in shampoo and conditioner. I'm like, okay, we're going to go with that one then. Because
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it right there. But yeah, he was so happy to see Dad, and it's just the trip up and going through Falls Pass. We pulled up to a tender to get fuel, and because there's no fuel there. And the guy on the tender, Dad looked at me, he goes, God, man, you remind me of the old crab days. I remember you. And the guy goes, Canute Olsen? And my dad didn't know who he was. He's like, oh my God, Canute Olsen? You're still around. He goes, yeah. He says, Natchmak. And I'm like, wow. And Dad's still looking at him like he doesn't have a clue who he is, but he just fakes it and he goes with it like, oh yeah. And they talked about Larry Lang. And I'm like, Dad, you're just like a legend.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of our old guard
No.
left. To get your dad would be awesome.
We'll get him in Seattle. I'll get him. I'll get
The
him.
whole reason for the podcast is to capture our maritime history.
Yes, exactly. And he would be a good one to get, and I'll get him. If I would have known it was going to be like this, I would have got him when I was here, but he was in such a, well, he only can walk so far, but he has to stop and check out his heart rate. But I'll just like, hey,
I'll
get you
crane him
guys
up.
together.
We'll bring him up
Yeah,
on
we'll
a
crane
forklift.
whatever it takes. We'll make it happen. I will make that happen so you can get his side of stories, because, God, does he have stories.
Jeff, this has been great.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Anything else to finish it?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Now I got to get back to my 2 kids. Wake them up. Go scrub that hole.
Wake
Do
'em
something
up.
exciting. Yeah, wake them up and make them all pissed
Do
off at
something
me. Yeah.
exciting. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening today. Follow us on Instagram. Pass it on and share our stories. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. We
Good
will
time.
see you next time.
There it is.
Thanks for listening to Galley Stories. We hope you like what the net brought in. Please leave us a review on iTunes. Whether you like it or not, we're not fishing for compliments. Look us up on Facebook and Twitter too, and reach out to us at galleystories@gmail.com.